Have you noticed it creeping in? That moment when standing up from the couch takes a little extra push, or a bag of groceries feels heavier than it used to? Maybe the stairs you used to take without thinking now get a pause and a hand on the railing. Maybe you've caught yourself steadying against the counter for a second longer than you used to. You're not imagining it, and you're not alone. What you might be experiencing has a name: sarcopenia. It's the gradual loss of muscle mass and strength that becomes more common after age 60. And here's the part most people don't realize. It isn't just getting older in some vague, unavoidable sense. It's a specific, measurable process your body goes through, and unlike a lot of things that come with age, it's one you have real, practical power to slow down, and in many cases, to reverse. I'm Dr. William Lee, and for years I've worked with older adults who came to me frustrated, sometimes scared, because their bodies didn't feel like their own anymore. The good news I want you to walk away with today isn't a miracle cure. It's something better, a clear, honest, doable understanding of what's actually happening inside your muscles and what genuinely helps. So let's start with the why. Think of your muscle tissue like a savings account that gets touched every single day. Every time you walk, lift, reach, or even just hold yourself upright, there's a small withdrawal, tiny, normal, microscopic stress on the muscle fibers. That's not a bad thing. In fact, it's the trigger for growth. Your body notices that stress, and if given the right conditions, responds by rebuilding those fibers back a little stronger than before. The problem is the other half of that equation, the deposit. Rebuilding muscle requires raw materials, primarily protein, broken down into amino acids, plus the right hormonal environment and physical demand that tells your body rebuilding is worth the investment. As we get older, several things shift at once. Our bodies become somewhat less efficient at using dietary protein for muscle repair, a phenomenon researchers sometimes call anabolic resistance. Hormone levels that support muscle maintenance, like growth hormone and, in men, testosterone, gradually decline. And on top of the biology, daily life often quietly changes too. Less walking, more sitting, smaller portions, and sometimes, without even noticing, less protein at each meal than the body now needs. Put those together, and the withdrawals start to outpace the deposits. Over months and years, that imbalance is what shows up as smaller, weaker muscles, not from one dramatic event, but from thousands of small mornings and small meals adding up. Here's why this matters so much for how you start your day. After roughly 8 hours of overnight fasting while you sleep, your body wakes up in a mildly catabolic state, meaning it's been gently breaking down tissue, including some muscle protein, for energy overnight. Breakfast is the first opportunity your body has to flip that switch back toward rebuilding. If that first meal is mostly sugar and simple starch with little protein, you're essentially telling your body to keep coasting in breakdown mode a while longer. If that first meal includes real complete protein, you're giving your body the materials to start the repair process immediately. That's the whole logic behind everything I'm about to walk you through. Before we get to what helps, let's talk honestly about a few very common breakfast habits that can quietly work against you. I want to be careful here. I'm not going to tell you any single food is poison, because that's simply not how nutrition works, and fear-based health advice tends to do more harm than good. What I want to give you instead is a clear-eyed look at patterns worth noticing. Pattern 1. Relying on refined carbohydrates as your main breakfast. A plain bagel, white toast, or a bowl of sugary cereal digests very quickly into simple sugar. That produces a fast rise in blood sugar, often followed by a dip. And neither extreme is particularly useful for muscle repair, because the meal simply doesn't contain much usable protein. It's not that bread or cereal are dangerous. It's that if they make up the entirety of breakfast, your body doesn't get the amino acids it needs to act on that morning repair window. Pattern 2. Coffee as a stand-in for breakfast. There's nothing wrong with coffee itself. It has real documented benefits for alertness and even some aspects of long-term health. The issue is when caffeine on a truly empty stomach becomes the entire morning routine, meal after meal, day after day. Caffeine can modestly raise stress hormones like cortisol, and when that's happening with no food at all in the system, you're missing the chance to pair that morning alertness with actual muscle-supporting nutrition. Pattern 3, leaning entirely on heavily processed breakfast meats. Bacon, breakfast sausage, and deli meats do contain protein, and enjoying them occasionally isn't something to stress over, but when they're the primary and near-exclusive protein source, morning after morning for years, they bring along a lot of sodium and saturated fat without the variety of nutrients that a more balanced protein rotation provides. Pattern 4, going completely fat-free, even in the name of health. This one surprises people. Some vitamins your muscles depend on, vitamin A, D, E, and K, are fat-soluble, meaning your body needs a small amount of dietary fat present to absorb them properly. A completely fat-free breakfast, chosen with good intentions, can mean those nutrients pass through largely unused. Pattern 5, fiber without protein. High-fiber cereals and bran-based breakfasts are genuinely good for digestive health and heart health. I'm not knocking them. But fiber alone, without a real protein source alongside it, still leaves that morning repair window without the materials it needs. Notice that none of these are "never eat this again" warnings. They're patterns. A slice of toast isn't a problem. Toast, as the entire meal, every single morning for years, is a pattern worth adjusting. That distinction matters because sustainable change comes from small, realistic shifts, not from fear. So now let's get to what I actually want you to remember from this video. 5 breakfast additions that give your body real, usable support for muscle maintenance and repair. Greek yogurt has earned its reputation, and for good reason. Compared to regular yogurt, it's strained to remove much of the liquid whey, which concentrates the protein significantly, often somewhere in the neighborhood of double what you'd find in a standard yogurt of the same size. That matters because protein quantity at a single meal appears to play a real role in triggering what researchers call muscle protein synthesis, essentially the biological go signal for rebuilding tissue. Greek yogurt is also naturally rich in leucine, one of the essential amino acids, and specifically the one that seems to act like a key turning a lock, helping to activate that muscle-building machinery once enough of it is present in a meal. This is part of why nutrition researchers who study aging and muscle health frequently point to yogurt, particularly the plain Greek variety, as an easy, accessible breakfast protein source for older adults. A few practical notes on getting the most from it. Choose plain yogurt over flavored varieties, since flavored versions are often loaded with added sugar that provides no muscle benefit. Full-fat or 2% versions aren't something to fear. The natural fat actually helps your body absorb those fat-soluble vitamins we talked about earlier. If you want sweetness, fresh berries, a few chopped dates, or a drizzle of honey in moderation work beautifully without the excess sugar of flavored cups. A tablespoon of ground flaxseed or chopped walnuts stirred in adds healthy fat, a bit of extra protein, and a satisfying texture. Eggs are often described as the gold standard of dietary protein, and that's not just marketing. It reflects something real in the science. Whole eggs contain all 9 essential amino acids in proportions your body uses very efficiently, which is why they're frequently used as the benchmark against which other protein sources are measured. Beyond protein, the yolk is where much of the nutritional value lives, including natural vitamin D, which plays a supporting role in calcium regulation and, by extension, in maintaining strong bones and healthy muscle function. This is one reason I encourage people not to fall into the habit of eating only egg whites out of an outdated fear of dietary cholesterol. Current nutrition science has moved away from that concern for most people, and the whole egg brings considerably more nutritional value. For preparation, gentle cooking methods, scrambled over low heat, poached, or soft-boiled, tend to preserve texture and are easy on digestion. Cooking in a modest amount of butter or olive oil adds a bit more healthy fat to help with nutrient absorption. 2 eggs alongside a source of vegetables, spinach, tomatoes, or mushrooms sautéed alongside them, rounds out a genuinely balanced, satisfying breakfast. Avocado won't provide much protein on its own, so I want to be clear it's a supporting player here, not a headliner. But it earns its place for a couple of specific reasons. First, its monounsaturated fat content is exactly the kind of dietary fat that helps your body absorb those fat-soluble vitamins from the rest of your meal. Pairing avocado with eggs, for instance, may help you get more usable value out of the vitamin D and vitamin E already present in the eggs. Second, avocados are notably rich in potassium, often cited as containing more potassium per serving than a banana, and potassium plays an important role in normal muscle contraction and in helping to prevent cramping, which becomes an increasingly common complaint as we age. Avocados also provide a modest amount of fiber and a range of antioxidants that support general cellular health. A simple way to enjoy it: mash half an avocado with a pinch of sea salt and a squeeze of lemon, and spread it over whole grain toast topped with a soft boiled egg, or slice it thin alongside your Greek yogurt bowl for a creamy contrast. Choose avocados that yield gently to pressure without feeling mushy. That's usually the sweet spot of ripeness. This one surprises people because we tend to associate chicken and turkey with lunch or dinner, not breakfast. But if you enjoy a heartier morning meal, a few ounces of leftover grilled chicken breast or turkey is genuinely one of the most concentrated, easily digested protein sources you can eat, often delivering somewhere around 30 grams of protein in a modest 4-ounce serving, with very little fat if you choose a lean cut. Poultry also naturally contains creatine, a compound your muscles use for quick energy production, and it's rich in B vitamins, particularly B6 and B12, which support the metabolic processes your body uses to convert dietary protein into muscle tissue. For those managing their weight or watching saturated fat intake, lean poultry offers a favorable protein-to-fat ratio compared to some processed meats. Practically, this doesn't require cooking a chicken breast at 6 in the morning. Many people simply grill extra chicken or turkey at dinner and slice the leftovers cold or gently reheated into their morning eggs or alongside a bowl of yogurt. A turkey breakfast patty made at home, without the added sugars and preservatives common in packaged versions, is another simple option. Rounding out the list, a modest handful of nuts and seeds brings plant-based protein, healthy fats, and a set of minerals, particularly magnesium and zinc, that are involved in a wide range of enzymatic processes in the body, including several connected to muscle function and repair. Walnuts and almonds are excellent choices, and seeds like chia, flax, and pumpkin bring their own additional benefits, including plant-based omega-3 fatty acids, which have anti-inflammatory properties that may support recovery after physical activity. Because nuts and seeds are calorie-dense, portion is worth paying attention to. Roughly a small handful, around an ounce, is a sensible daily amount. Choose raw or dry roasted, unsalted varieties where possible, since the salted, heavily processed versions add sodium without added benefit. Sprinkled over Greek yogurt, folded into oatmeal alongside a scoop of protein, or simply enjoyed on the side, they're an easy, low-effort addition. You don't need to eat all 5 of these every single morning. That's not realistic, and it's not necessary. The goal is simpler. Aim for a breakfast that includes a real source of complete protein, a bit of healthy fat, and ideally some fiber from fruit or vegetables. A few realistic combinations: plain Greek yogurt with berries and a spoonful of chopped walnuts, 2 eggs with sautéed spinach and half an avocado on whole grain toast, a small bowl of oatmeal, itself a perfectly reasonable food when it's not your only source of nutrition, topped with Greek yogurt, sliced almonds, and a bit of fruit, leftover grilled chicken or turkey alongside scrambled eggs and a side of fruit. Notice that oatmeal reappears in that last example. I want to be clear. Oatmeal is not a food to fear. It's a genuinely healthy source of soluble fiber that supports heart health and steady energy. The only adjustment worth making is not treating it as your sole source of nutrition at breakfast. Pairing it with a real protein source turns it from an incomplete meal into a well-rounded one. You may have heard claims about a narrow anabolic window, the idea that you must eat protein within some very specific number of minutes of waking for it to count. The honest answer from current research is more relaxed than that. What seems to matter most is getting adequate, well-distributed protein across the whole day, with breakfast being one meaningful opportunity rather than a make-or-break deadline. If you eat breakfast at 7 or at 9, the difference is unlikely to be significant. What matters far more is consistency, day after day, week after week. I'd be doing you a disservice if I let you believe that breakfast alone reverses sarcopenia. Nutrition provides the materials, but muscle only rebuilds stronger when it's asked to. That's where movement comes in, and I don't mean anything extreme. Resistance-based movement. Even gentle versions like using light dumbbells, resistance bands, bodyweight exercises such as sit-to-stand repetitions from a chair or wall push-ups sends a direct signal to your muscles that they're still needed and still valuable to maintain. Research on aging consistently shows that even modest resistance training, performed 2 to 3 times a week, can meaningfully improve muscle strength and function in older adults, often within a matter of months. Walking helps too, particularly for cardiovascular health and balance, but it's resistance work specifically that tends to drive the clearest muscle strength benefits. If you haven't done any strength-based movement in a while, that's completely fine. Start small, and if you have any underlying health conditions, it's always worth a conversation with your own doctor before beginning something new. But the combination of a protein-supportive breakfast and even light, consistent resistance movement is, together, far more powerful than either one alone. Let me address a few things you may have heard elsewhere, because misinformation on this topic is unfortunately common. You do not need enormous amounts of protein to maintain muscle as you age. More isn't automatically better, and extremely high protein intake without medical guidance isn't necessary for most people. You don't need to eliminate entire food groups to protect your muscles. Balance and pattern matter far more than any single forbidden food. And muscle loss, while common, is not inevitable or irreversible. The body remains remarkably responsive to good nutrition and movement well into later decades of life. If you're watching this and recognizing some of those less helpful morning patterns in your own routine, please don't feel discouraged. None of us build habits perfectly, and the fact that you're here, learning, paying attention, asking questions about your own health, that already puts you ahead of where most people start. Pick one small change this week. Maybe it's simply adding a spoonful of Greek yogurt to your breakfast. Maybe it's swapping one processed breakfast meat morning for eggs. Small, sustainable changes, repeated consistently, are what actually move the needle over months and years, not dramatic overnight overhauls that are hard to maintain. If this video gave you a clearer, calmer understanding of what's really going on with your strength and a realistic plan instead of a scary headline, that's exactly what Senior Medical Insight is here for. If you'd like more grounded, practical health guidance like this, consider subscribing, and I'll see you in the next one.